Hello, and welcome to this brief instruction clip for members of the expert panels evaluating fundamental research projects applications. In this clip, we will discuss the ins and outs of writing internal evaluation reports, which is a central task of each and every FWO panel member. Every FWO panel member gets to write internal evaluation reports, which are the basic reviews of the applications submitted to your panel. It is very important that you respect the deadline by which this report should be submitted, as the next step in the evaluation procedure, the rebuttal by the applicants, cannot commence without your internal review report. The submission deadline for your internal evaluation report is detailed in the email informing you of the applications assigned to you. Your account administrator will also send a reminder a week before the report is due. Bear in mind that your internal review report will be sent to the applicants unabridged. Therefore, please make sure that the contents of your review are well considered and that its language is appropriate. Please note that while the scientific chair took your conflict of interest and confidence rate information into account when assigning applications to you for internal evaluation reports, we do consider all FWO panelists to be generalists. This means that we expect you to be able to assess a wide range of proposals based upon your general expertise and experience. Before you start, it is also useful to know that you will be assessing two types of applications, those for junior research projects and those for senior research projects. Junior research projects are submitted by researchers who have obtained their PhD no more than 12 years before the deadline of the call. Senior research projects are submitted by one or more applicants with over 12 years of scientific seniority post-PhD. Finally, a note on multidisciplinary proposals, which may be submitted to your panel. In multidisciplinary proposals, typically one or more scientific disciplines are used that do not belong to the scope of your panel. They will not be a dominant factor in the proposed research, but they may nonetheless play an important role. For such proposals, the applicant may request an external review from an on-topic specialist. These experts will be asked to specifically review the aspects of the proposal related to their discipline. If you encounter such proposals when you are writing your internal review reports, please keep this in mind and be careful with suggesting that this proposal might be out of scope. As long as it is mainly on a topic covered by the panel, it is likely in scope. The internal review report is a written evaluation of the project proposal. For each proposal, we expect you to assess the two main evaluation criteria, namely the scientific expertise of the research group on the one hand and the quality of the proposed project on the other. Budget is not an evaluation criterion as such, but the panel may advise the FWO Board of Trustees to reduce the budget when duly substantiated. Please be aware that the two main evaluation criteria have a different weight in the final evaluation of the application. The score for the research group has a weight of 25% in the total score, whereas the score for the project determines the total score for 75%. For the evaluation of the project proposal, you will be asked to assess two sub-criteria: the extent to which the project will contribute to the state of the art on the one hand, and the quality of the research approach and feasibility on the other. For both of these sub-criteria, you should describe the strengths and weaknesses and, if possible, make suggestions for how this may be improved. For evaluating the research group, the scoring grid contains several elements that need to be considered. First, does the research team as a whole cover the expertise that is required to perform the proposed project, and do they have access to the necessary infrastructure? Second, is this expertise evidenced by a relevant range of scientific activities and achievements? Although publications definitely form one relevant indicator for this, FWO expects you to consider all possible types of scientific achievements, as explained in more detail in the next slide. Finally, the complementarity between the teams and the team members should be assessed as well. For the evaluation of this criterion, the difference in seniority between the junior and the senior project should of course be taken into account. For the assessment of the research group, you should also take into account FWO's policy on broadening the evaluation of scientific accomplishments, since we moved away from the traditional evaluation of academic output that considered only scientific publications as indicators. We therefore now ask all our evaluators to consider all relevant forms of scientific and research-related societal achievements when assessing the candidates. Experience outside the academic sector, where research output often takes other forms, should also be taken into account in the evaluation. The application form is designed to allow researchers to detail their more diverse profile. The scoring grid, moreover, specifies these elements as possible indicators as well. As mentioned earlier, we ask you to consider applicants' relative seniority. Thus, it may be relevant to adjust your assessment in case of, for example, career breaks or if the applicant's specific personal situation warrants this. Any influence of the COVID-19 pandemic on the development of academic CVs and careers should also be considered. Through the FWO e-portal, you access the evaluation template for each application for which you are internal evaluator. For the disciplinary panels, the template contains 3 text fields, one for each subcriterion, each also containing a box in which to enter a score for each subcriterion. For the interdisciplinary panel, there's a separate instructional video that you can consult. For each subcriterion, you should enter in the text box the main strengths and weaknesses, followed by the main conclusions regarding this criterion and any suggestions for improvement. You should then assign a score that aligns with your written assessment as well as with the descriptors in the scoring grid. Please note that while we give you the opportunity to comment on the appropriateness of the budget that is applied for by the applicants, the budget is in and of itself not an evaluation criterion. It does not matter, in other words, whether a project is expensive or cheap. What matters is that the funding that is applied for is used effectively and efficiently. Finally, bear in mind that the text you write will be sent unabridged to the applicants as part of the rebuttal procedure. Make sure that the text is appropriate in terms of both tone and content. Please also be aware that the applicants will not be informed of the scores you give as part of your internal review, but that they will only receive the text that you write as part of the rebuttal procedure. While writing the internal evaluation report, we expect you to use the scoring grid which is available in your e-portal. The scoring grid contains specific descriptors for each subcriterion and will guide you in assigning the appropriate score between 0, unacceptable, and 7, outstanding. To assign a score, we advise you to proceed as follows. For each criterion, start reading the descriptors for the scoring range of 4-5 and verify that the proposal meets these requirements. Only when a proposal meets all descriptors can it be assigned the score of 4 or higher. If it does not meet these conditions, then check whether the descriptors under score 2-3 may be applicable. If not, then a lower score can be chosen following the same principles. If the descriptors under 4-5 are fully applicable to the project, then you should further check whether the descriptors in the higher score category are fully met. If so, then a score within this category can be chosen. If not all conditions within the 6-7 category are fully met, but at least partially met, then you can still differentiate within the 4-5 category by choosing a score of 5. Before we go, finally, a brief word still about the confidentiality of the FWO review procedure. Please be aware that at FWO we have strict rules regarding the confidentiality of our review procedures. These imply that as a panel member you may not share any information related to the applications or the review and evaluation process with any third parties outside the panel. Be aware that search engines, translators, or artificial intelligence-based apps are considered a third party in this context. Sharing parts of the application or of your review in such online tools is thus strictly prohibited. More details about our policies in this regard can be found in the panel member code of conduct. This concludes this video. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact your account administrator. Many thanks for your interest in the FWO, and for now, goodbye.